the worship of Gene Hackman, the utter disbelief of mega cinemas in Tokyo, Japan, and yeah, sure, Indiana Jones is discussed as well. Ooh, Bradley and Mark wear matching hoodies. It's another crazy episode of Written Off.
In this one, I'll sort of be the straight man, but I think it'd be the opposite, wouldn't it? I'll be the color commentator to this. I've read quite a lot. You're more of an indie guy than me. I just actually literally this morning finished watching Raiders again, which is only the second time I've watched it. I'm not as big on it as a lot of people. No, not to say I don't like it, but it just wasn't in the rotation. And I certainly have got a few observations to make. I've seen a lot of criticism of the writing of this one, and I think some of it is justified. But, even watching Raiders, there's some scenes in that are 100.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. Yep.
All right.
Would you listen to that? We're so excited about this episode's movie, we forgot to do our intro. We're chomping at the bit. Now, there's an expression I do not use often. Welcome to Written Off, a podcast all about movies, in which we brazenly suggest ways they kind of maybe sorta could have been better. My name is Bradley Freeman. Thank you very much for joining our little podcast. How are you doing? How was your weekend? More importantly, did you eat some pizza? Look, if there's one thing you have to know about me, my default question will always be pizza related. With me, as always, is my far smarter, far more talented, far co-host, and that makes sense because he's in England and I'm in New Zealand, Mark Tasker. Mark, how have you been?
Very well.
God, that sounded so fucking, how have you been, Mark? Oh, Jesus.
All right.
Jesus.
Nice that you're so concerned.
Mark made a really good point just before we started filming. It's both hoodie weather for us. Now, typically, I subsist in hoodies. It's my natural state of being to be wearing a hoodie. I try and stay in hoodies for as long as humanly possible until the weather won't allow for it. But now I'm overjoyed to see that Mark has joined me in a collective hoodiness.
The hoodie is too small for me. It's my niece's boyfriend's band, which is literally broken up 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was his choice. They're called Glower. It's like a kind of hardcore screamer band. So I said, look, before you break up, can I have some merch? But the only size they had was small, and it's a unisex small. Not a great deal of deep breathing can be done in it. I don't know if that will help or hinder today's recording. We'll see.
So when you walk down the street...
This is the first time I've put it on, and I'm not sure I'll wear it out. I would give the name of the band, but really there's not much point.
Well, you just did. Glower. You said, glower. I was going to make a shitty, are people glowering at you when you go down the street? But you haven't even fucking worn it outside. So there goes my joke. Crap.
No.
As always, we like to start with a lovely talk about what we've been reading or what we've been seeing, what we've been experiencing recently. What kind of things have you been up to, Mark?
I watched The French Connection for the first time. Yeah, very interesting. At some point, we'll talk about sort of editing, pacing. Well, we might well talk about it today. Editing and pacing. And obviously thinking about how films had to be edited in the sort of 70s, 80s. Some of the cuts, especially after dialogue, the cuts feel very harsh.
Boom. Yeah.
We can all understand why, but that film, obviously the last third, the sort of chase is incredibly kinetic and bumpy. It's not it's not a film where much happens, really. It's sort of a lot of N-words, which did shock me, I'll be honest, when I first saw it. They go back to the same bar twice, I think, to harass those poor blokes. And obviously I enjoyed it. I like Hackman, but I'm sort of more used to The Conversation's one of my favorite films. I'm more used to the slightly introverted, grumpy Hackman. So watching him in that role, which I know for a lot of people, that might have been the first thing they think of when they think of him. But yeah, watching him in that role was quite refreshing because I hadn't really seen him do that before. So I really enjoyed it. And it was just by happenstance. I just saw it and thought, I'll spend an hour and a half with that. So yeah, it was good.
I absolutely worship the ground that Hackman walked on. I find him to be a fascinating movie star because movies would get greenlit with his name and his face on the poster, but that face isn't a movie star face. It's kind of the same with Tom Hanks, but Tom Hanks has the Mr. America affable, nice guy. Hackman, you perfectly summed it up, grumpy. When I think of Hackman, I think like, what are you doing? He's always grumbling and shouting at someone in a movie. I've actually been on a Hackman trip recently, and there's that weird period in the 90s where he made 3 westerns back to back to back. Like I watched Unforgiven, which I'd never seen.
Really?
I watched The Quick and the Dead, which I'd never seen. And then he made, what was the other Western he did? Oh, I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
I couldn't reconcile why he would do 3 Westerns back to back. And he's playing the bad guy in both. And there's a lot of similarities to how he plays them. And it's just fascinating. And I've never seen Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation.
Have you not?
No, I'm dying to watch it, but unfortunately, I can't find it available to rent on any streaming service here. It just came out on 4K, but the 4K disc is $60. And it's like,
well, The Conversation obviously is an interesting film because it was made between the Godfathers. It was the one that Coppola wanted to make. Yeah, it's just and Harrison Ford actually, in a link to today, is in that film as a very, very small, very sinister role in that film. I've seen it a lot of times, 5, 6, 7 times probably. And again, the editing, the sound editing is probably, well, unsurpassed is a strong word, but yeah, extraordinary. I'm really, really interested in film sound, and there aren't that many films that really, really think about that as how important it is, and that might again come up today. But the work that must have gone into that film, which was basically just a little pet project he did between Godfathers, yeah, it's really worth watching. But very, very briefly, the Hackman performance in Unforgiven. Like no one else could have done that performance. He is incredibly threatening. The bit where he destroys Richard Harris, who you at the time think is going to be, oh, here comes the English guy, and you think, oh, this is the big bad. And Hackman literally kicks him out of town. And it's not he's not a typical bad guy. He's just an irascible figure who is easy to sort of understand in that terms. He's not, he's not a Terminator. He's a unique character actor who, as you said, people put above the name of the title, which I can't imagine happening now.
It's going to be fascinating to explain to my kids, hey, let's sit down and watch a Hackman movie. And they'll be like, yo, he's like pudgy and he's balding. What is the drawing factor to this? I suppose it's the same thing you'd say about Richard Dreyfuss. Once upon a time, that was a name in the credits, like Mr. Holland's Opus, I think, was sold on, hey, it's Dreyfuss in a lead role.
I'm thinking about, I can't remember his name now. There's that guy. Well, actually, kind of in a similar vein. It's the guy. He's in the Superman, the first Cavill Superman. He's Zod. I've forgotten his name.
Oh Christ! The steely-eyed angry man.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a bit of that energy. Michael Shannon,
yes.
And there was a brief moment, I wouldn't quite say above the title, but certainly an odd character. He is brilliant in. God, this is not working out well. He's brilliant in most things, but he's also got that not really handsome, uncomfortable to be around. The other characters are always uncomfortable around him. But he seems to have sort of fallen off in recent times. But yeah, anyway.
I would say the same applies to Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, yeah.
I find him fascinating to watch. I'm saying the F word way too much in this episode. Not the good F word, by the way. This smoldering intensity of emotion that inhabits even those fucking Star Wars movies. He's probably the best thing in them. Yeah, then he goes and makes that movie 43 or whatever it is with the dinosaurs. And it's like, I don't think you're that guy. That being said, I look forward to Coppola's latest movie.
Well, if you get to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things you're hearing about what happened there, I don't know.
I saw Alien Romulus for the second time, but I saw it in Ultra 4DX.
Okay.
Mark actually introduced me to the cinema in Ikebukuro in Tokyo, Japan. There is the Grand Cinema Sunshine. It's a newly built building. Ostensibly, it is the most high-tech, beautiful, amazing, highest quality cinema in all of Japan, or maybe even in all of Asia. I'm not too sure. I was back in Japan recently on vacation, so I took my buddy. I wanted to show him the luxury and the pageantry of the Japanese cinema experience. Ultra 4DX combines 2 technologies It's the 4DX that if you're in America or elsewhere in the world, you've probably experienced the cinema seats that, they shake and they rattle. These actuators in the back of the seats that kind of punch your spine, which is pleasurable, I tell you. They've got steam coming out of the screen. They've got droplets of water. They've got smells. They've got heat at the back of your neck. It's a gimmick, to be sure, but it's worthwhile to experience once. I've done 4DX before. That was nothing new, but I'd never done ScreenX, which is the one where like the sides of the cinema are also a screen. So I had the ScreenX and the 4DX combined. I don't believe it'll make or break a movie, but it's worth your experience once, and I'm really glad I did. Would I want to see my most treasured movie, Jaws, in ScreenX, 4DX? Yeah, probably not. Hey, if I was going to go see yet another Marvel movie, I wanted a good time, I'd give it a go.
Yeah. I don't think I did ever see a 4DX. A friend of mine we both used to work with, actually. He went to see something and he really said, look, it took away from my enjoyment of the film because I was so distracted by what was going on. It was a bit more like Star Tours or something like that.
Very similar. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah. So again, I think it would sort of depend. But yeah, that IMAX in cinema. I saw Joker in that IMAX.
Laser GT IMAX.
And each of the theaters has like a theme or like an inspiration. It's extraordinary. If you go, and I was lucky enough, that was my local cinema, which, now my local cinema now is not that. So yeah, I'm quite jealous. Yeah, that'll be when I do go back. That'll be something I'll have to do. Take that escalator all the way up to the top. And it's independent as well. It's not.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how it got built. I really don't.
What's crazy to explain to anyone listening is that in Ikebukuro, Ikebukuro is quite a large city, blah, 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 blah. But there are 3 cinemas block to block to block. Now, one cinema is Toho Cinemas, which Toho is, of course, one of the big film studios in Japan. They have their cinema on a corner, and I believe that's IMAX. Then literally a block over is this cinema we're talking about, the Grand Cinema Sunshine. And then another block over is the confusingly named Sunshine Cinemas, where actually, when I first got to Japan, that's where I saw Die Hard 4.0. That was the first movie I saw in Japan at that cinema. I can't quite work out in my head how there's enough populace to keep these 3 mega complexes ultra. The rent alone must be staggering. But if it can be done, it can be done. And speaking of can be done, Mark just brought a cat into the video screen. I know it's a podcast, you can't see it, but it's a fluffy cat. It's a cat that's happy to be in his. Oh, and the cat's gone now.
This may well be the end of the podcast. You were supposed to be sleeping. I had this planned. I don't know if we'll ever see I don't know where you would see such investment in a cinema or at a couple of cinemas, as you say, so close to each other. I used to teach a guy who actually was one of the architects, funnily enough, and he told me how he got. There's a big screen. So not only have they got the IMAX screen, behind the IMAX screen where the seats ascend, they've put in this giant screen you can see from across Ikebukuro from outside, and they run trailers on this giant screen. And he said they had to basically, they pushed it in from the side of the building before they put the window in. Which again, if you go, even if you Google it, Grand Cinema Sunshine in Ikebukuro, it's astonishing. It's astonishing. I don't know how it happened or why it happened, but I'm glad it did.
Mark's not lying. You can be in the city proper, and yeah, you'll see a giant skyscraper, and seemingly 5 of the upper floors of the skyscraper, it's all one big cinema screen, and it's showing you trailers. You can't hear it. It's not as though it's blasting the sound as well. The building would be shut down if that was the case. But it's one of the many, many things in Tokyo, Japan, where you just look at it and be like, what the hell? Anyway, speaking of what the hell, I can think of no better segue for us to launch into our movie of today. You've downloaded the podcast, you've checked the episode description, you know what you're in for. Today, we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This is a recent movie for a lot of folks. It's hotly debated online for probably very, very good reasons. But before we get into the movie proper, Mark, I want to ask you, what is your history with this franchise, this seemingly beloved, although maybe not so much anymore, franchise? Take it away.
Yeah, I think for anyone in the UK who's 40-ish. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they probably saw Last Crusade first because it was a big bank holiday film. It was definitely, funnily enough, Temple of Doom was not such a big bank holiday film, but the big bank holiday film, they would run it, well, to my memory, almost every year, probably twice a year. So for me, that will always be my favorite. I will go out on a limb and say it's the most enjoyable. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I think it's the most enjoyable. I think that the Ford combination with Connery is incredible. I think the way that they vibe with each other is, and Sean Connery, it's funny because you see him a lot of the films and I haven't always got it about him, but in that I love those two together. So that was the film I have definitely seen the most. I told you earlier, I saw Raiders yesterday. When I was a kid, I found it a bit boring as a kid. I mean, I appreciate a lot more now. Temple of Doom, I have seen once all the way through in bits and pieces. And The Crystal Skull, I didn't see in cinema, definitely not. I think I've only seen that once, probably. So I am far from being a mega fan. Recently, I find myself more and more interested in how these films get made, how they're put together, or how they're conceived. So I've probably read and spent more time reading about these films than I have watching them. So I have never seen any of them at the cinema, and Dial of Destiny was I wouldn't say I had no interest, but it was one of those ones where if I didn't see it in the first week, I just wasn't going to see it. And then the torrent of negativity, which I think a lot of it is unfounded. What they're critiquing is unfounded. A lot of these edgelords who are coming on, Mary suing and all this, like, I'm not a massive fan of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, to be honest, but still, you don't have to attack the film in such a misogynistic way. There's plenty other ways you can attack it if you want to.
My mom used to work in a movie theater back when I was yay high. My nana and my granddad, they kind of co-owned a movie theater or two around Christchurch, New Zealand. So my mom would work part-time in the cinema. And I was, I believe, 2 or 3 years old at the time. And this being the early 80s, parenting, perhaps not quite what it is today in terms of checks and assurances. She would load me up with candy, sit me down in one of the cinema seats, and leave me be. Now, understandably, I was 2 or 3 years old, fucking by myself, so I would be often found roaming the floors of the cinema on my hands and knees, just crawling around between the seats, bored out of my mind. The story goes, Raiders of the Lost Ark is the very first movie in my life to keep me bolted to my seat from beginning to end.
And I've just called it boring. I'm sorry.
I find that a very sweet and charming origin story. It makes a lot of sense as to why I worship the throne of Spielberg.
It was probably Cocoon, but your mum just lied to you.
Ah! Good old Ron Howard coming in there. I don't remember shit about the movie, but apparently, yes. So Raiders was my first movie that I sat through all the way through. I must have seen Temple. I was freshly in Japan circa 2007 when, Crystal Skull came out. And I remember Japan absolutely losing their mind for Indiana Jones. Apparently, Indy is huge over there. And actually, I was checking the box office for Dial of Destiny. Japan was the 3rd ranking for box office worldwide. So clearly, Spielberg / Lucas / Ford / Indiana Jones has a big following in Japan. So I remember that. And I saw, Dial of Destiny in Japan as well. My feelings towards the franchise, it's kind of flopped all over the place over the years. I remember buying the DVD box set of the first 3 movies whenever it came out. And I was so excited. I am a Spielberg sycophant. So I bought the box set. I watched it and I didn't like any of them. Maybe it was just how old I was as a teenager or whatever. But I was like, this is slow. This isn't working for me. This isn't the Spielberg that I like. Sold that box set and moved on. I saw Crystal Skull. I saw Dial of Destiny. I didn't think much about either. And it's only been in this last few weeks, what I've done is my oldest son is 6, my youngest is 4. We've watched every Indiana Jones movie together. Clearly, I'm also making questionable parenting choices, showing a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old some of the more intense scenes in Temple of Doom. But hey, I took video, so I've got photographic proof of them being scarred for life. I showed it to Mark. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I've contacted social services, by the way.
Fair enough. Is that, someone at the door right now. But watching these movies with my kids, number one, I can say, Crystal Skull, I'm ashamed to say it. I remember jumping on the internet bandwagon of, oh my God, Shia LaBeouf he's swinging with monkeys. And what is this? And this is the worst. This is cinematic hell. I remember doing that. But sorry to say, to you Crystal Skull haters out there, it is a perfectly serviceable Indiana Jones movie that is no different than the rest. I mean, yeah, it's the Russians as bad guys. There's a hell of a lot more CGI, maybe a bit too much CGI, but it's, if you like the first three, the fourth one is exactly the same. So with all this in mind, and with the recent rewatch coming into Dial of Destiny for the second time, I felt really well armed to look at this as hopefully as level-headed as possible.
Yeah. And I think that is important. It's quite an interesting film. It's definitely quite an interesting film.
As always, we like to begin with what works about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I thought you were going to start me off with where did it all go wrong, which was probably an easier question to answer.
How about I lead you in? I'll lead you in because I've got notes. I have extensive notes. Oh, yeah. First of all, I think the opening is pretty damn solid. This is written off. We prefer to talk more about the screenplay, the script, than the actual, end result of the film itself. So yeah, the CGI and his gravelly voice is something. So there are issues with that scene. And I think Spielberg and David Coep, they had this idea for a train sequence that was about apparently 5 or 6 minutes long, which I think would have probably been better for it. This goes on for 25 minutes. But I feel overall the opening is relatively solid. Hey, it's an indie movie. You're back. Woohoo. It was a good idea setting it when he was younger. So I think the opening is good.
Quick question about timeline. And I agree. I do agree. I don't dislike it. It's too long. The CGI doesn't work. And Mads Mikkelsen, should be dead. But that's not the script. That's the way it's shown on the screen. I don't know why they just have him falling off, disappearing mysteriously like they do so often in these films. But anyway, obviously they felt like they could do it. So I agree with you.
Just after this, they have, I think, a terrific scene of Indy telling a very, very bored class all about the MacGuffin of the movie. Indy's tired, but he's still excited. And he's telling you, the audience, here's the MacGuffin. Here's what it's about. Here's why it's important. Here's why I like it. And I think that is, in terms of screenwriting, a beautiful way to set up the film. And it's a nice callback to that elegant, so wisely done scene from Raiders. The two FBI guys are like, well, what is this Ark of the Covenant thing? And Indy and his associate with a blackboard tell them and the audience what's going on. So it was a really nice callback. I think it's such an effective scene that I would actually cut the other scene, which opens with him sleeping in a chair with his top off, growling at some neighbors, and then grumbling about his lot in life. Start with him in class. I think it's such an effective scene at telling you everything you need to know about where Indy's at right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the criticisms that's leveled at it, again, for reasons I don't like, but the portrayal of him as washed up, disenchanted, and obviously having especially ended Crystal Skull in the way they ended that, to then, a lot of people are comparing it to, obviously, Luke in Last Jedi. And I don't want to go down that because I think there's a lot to say about that. But yeah, I agree. Having this sort of, here he is in his pomp in the prologue, here he is in his pomp, and he's doing what you love him to do. And then he wakes up, as you say, with his shirt off and grumbling at young people because they're playing music too loud. Yeah, no, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's your main character. What was hilarious, though, is it could be my sons are complete dumbasses, but I warned them beforehand. I was like, kids, guys, Indy's going to be old in this.
Did you?
Yeah. And my oldest is like, why is he old? I said, wow, that's never mind. But look, he's going to be old in this movie. So I prepped them for it, but they never seemed fazed by it. Certainly the movie itself, to its, I would say, discredit, never really seems interested in establishing it either, aside for some random scene where he's climbing up a cliff saying, I drank the blood of Kali Ma and I got shot 9 times. Oh, this is the scene where you mention him being all right, because before that you're quite happy to go underwater diving with fucking eels, and before that you're driving around a tuk-tuk like it's no one's business.
Well, it's inexplicable to me because you've got the old Indy template in the Sean Connery performance. So,
oh, good. Yes. Yeah.
There's an interesting video talking about the choice they've made to make it chronological. So you have to have him a certain age and you have to have the back so rather than a serial kind of thing. So if you're going to do it, then he can reflect upon his similarities to his dad. Now he's reached around that age. But instead, you've had to go down the sad sack route, I suppose, because they're trying to contrast with Miss Waller-Bridge. But it doesn't need to be that much of a contrast, because we've seen in Last Crusade that you don't have to have it old crotchety versus young energy. You don't need that as a dynamic. There are other dynamics that exist. So that to me is 100% agree. That's what I was going to say. That's where the wheels kind of fall off in setting that tone so early. And then he immediately goes out and does all the stuff he does. So there's a lot of flip-flopping in terms of his characterization. Is he a sad sack or is he still enthusiastic? Pick a lane.
I think that's a great summary of the film itself, and we'll get into that soon. But let's continue the good stuff. You just said you're not a fan of Miss Waller-Bridge. I find her fantastic. Again, with that fucking F word. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I've only seen a couple of episodes of Fleabag, but I adore that. I think her line delivery, the spark and the wit and the way I think she brings a lot of, it's an old term, but moxie. I love that the moxie that she brings to this movie. I think she works through and through and through. I just wish her character was written to some different choices. Love her. And I think the character overall is a great addition.
Yeah, my issue with her is 100% class-based. Another public school girl romping around. She might as well be wearing jodhpurs and those kinds of people. No, thank you. So it's not her fault. When I see her, all I see is class. All I see is nepotism. All I see is opportunities. Now, she has taken those opportunities and done great things. I think she's a really good writer. I agree. She's a good presence in this film. And actually, even the misogynistic people that I saw reviewing this, their accusations against her are pretty lame. They just don't like the fact that she knows things, which is not a criticism as far as I can see, because women are allowed to know things, believe it or not. I think, as you say, that her character, we'll talk about it, her having her own sidekick, I see what they were thinking. I can see where they were going.
Oh, and I see where you're going with this, and I'm right there alongside you. Yes, that sidekick. We shall talk about the child.
I don't know, how old is he? He's got a little budding moustache, hasn't he? Yeah, go on, sorry.
What else works? I like that the bad guy is subordinate. The opening thing, the bad guy isn't actually the lead bad guy. He's there, but he's not the big bad guy. In fact, that's the first indie film to actually have the bad guy in the opening since the first indie film. Temple of Doom, not in there. Last Crusade, it's a guy in a white hat. So it's great to have that be the opening. What else works? Hey, Salah! Salah's in this. Yay! Well, this is awesome. Great. Salah's in it for fan service reasons that doesn't actually do anything. But we'll talk about that.
For people who can't see Brad, he's squinting at his notes here, and his squinting's getting more and more intense as he tries to find things he likes.
The tuk-tuk scene, the mechanism surrounding it, we'll get into, but based on the necessity of the tuk-tuk scene, what it does, I think the chase scene works, though it is, quite frankly, a fucking CGI mess. Oh, but on script basis, hey, the tuk-tuk scene works. I like the big bad guy. There's a history of these big chunky bad guys in every indie movie, and in fact, in the first three, it was the stunt coordinator. He's the big bad guy in the opening sequence in Nepal in the first one, and he's later on he's the German who gets his face cut off by the airplane propeller. Indy's got this history of these big chunky bad guys, and I think the chunkiest bad guy of them all in this movie, he works. He doesn't do much.
I watched a video that had like at least 15 minutes of it devoted to the being disappointed that Indy doesn't fight the bad guy because he's always fought the bad guy before. Who cares? It would be preposterous for him to fight him. I mean, the guy was like, well, he could have used his bullwhip and all this. And I just thought, not everything has to, as Lucas says, rhyme. Like, that's not necessary.
True.
And it's funny because a lot of criticisms are like, it's too much like the old films, or it's also at the same time not enough like them. So you want it to be the same, but you want it to be different.
And finally, we're talking specifically about the ending. So we'll get to that later on. But there's one more thing that I actually kind of like, and then the movie doesn't really do anything with it, unfortunately. Anything else you want to add to those, or is it?
But anytime Toby Jones is on screen, I'm happy. I've got a poster in this kitchen of Barbarian Sound Studio, which if you haven't watched, you should watch. Peter Strickland is a low-key genius who no one ever talks about. Toby Jones plays this Foley artist in that film. So anyone interested in sound, we already talked about it earlier, should watch that film. That's got absolutely nothing to do with the script. When I first saw it, the time travel element, I mean, I literally laughed out loud. But the second time I watched it, It didn't bother me as much because I think I paid more attention to how it had been set up. I mean, to be fair, I'm sure some people, if they're watching Raiders for the first time, are like, well, why are all those ghosts melting their faces? And now why have they just put that box in a big room full of boxes? Like, what? So there are a lot of things in Indy that take people out of it. Obviously, Aliens notoriously. In every film, there's always an incredibly ridiculous moment. That bothered me a bit less the second time. I'm sure you may well disagree and you may well be right, but it bothered me a little bit less. If they'd have written that a little bit better, I wouldn't have had a huge objection to it. That's all I would add.
Well, then let's move on to the next phase of our discussion. What was the first mistake the film made writing-wise for you? When was the first, ooh, okay, here we go.
Again, if we're talking about writing, whenever we're having these discussions, it's whether we talk about how the characters are written or the plot mechanics, if you like. I agree that the prologue it's too long, but it's fine. It has quite a lot to set up because they've abandoned all characters who were in Crystal Skull. It has to be the characterization in, again, the slumping with your shirt off. You've alluded to the goons, Mads Mikkelsen's goons. I don't understand why they're there. What are they doing in the film? Why are they're shot in a way, that's not the writing, but they're presented in a way as though there's a kind of intrinsic importance. And you've also got blonde guy whose name I've forgotten.
Boyd Holbrook.
I don't believe there's any need for those characters. I don't really understand. Mikkelsen has this relationship with the CIA. I'm not really sure I ever quite understand what it is and why do we need it? I think the film wastes a lot of time because the film is bloated. You are a person who writes and tries to streamline. And I think that's something I didn't like. And that happens fairly early on.
It's funny you mention this because I'm going over one of my older books, just fixing a few things and expanding a few things. I wound up adding quite a nice chunk or a nice section to a chapter. I thought it really established a character much more succinctly, just with more color than I did when I wrote it 10 plus years ago. But of course, immediately after I finished fucking writing that whole chapter, basically, I was having dinner. I was like, oh shit, I've added a lot of stuff that I think is worthwhile. But really, if I'm thinking of pacing, if I'm thinking of timing, if I'm thinking of that efficiency of storytelling, I could probably just cut the entire chapter. And that's knocked me on my ass. But talking specifically about Indy, I have some facts for you. Raiders of the Lost Ark, what is the runtime?
An hour and 28?
Hour 55.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this is with credits.
Okay.
Temple of Doom, how long is Temple of Doom? You say it's a longer movie, a shorter
it's a
movie?
little bit shorter, I think.
It's an hour and 58 minutes.
A little bit longer, okay. But similar, yeah.
How long is Last Crusade?
Well, that's 2 hours 5.
Very close. 2 hours and 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And how long is Crystal Skull?
2:10?
2 hours and 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, how long is Dial of Destiny? 2 hours and 37
Wow,
minutes.
37. Wow. Well, I mean, you've mentioned the 25-minute prologue. Pacing is a massive problem for it. A massive problem.
The film kind of lurches. Even when the action's happening, it's not as propulsive or as like, whiz bang, oh wow, oh, that Spielberg and Lucas are so good at doing. Mangold likes to really take his time, and his other movies, especially Logan, I can't think of a James Mangold action sequence where I was like, this guy knows how to make action, despite him actually working with it. Now, I have a quote from the complete making of Indiana Jones book. And Lucas says in this book, these are B-movie serials with A-level budgets.
Yep.
And this script continually pushes it in all the places it doesn't belong.
Yep.
I don't feel at any stage of this movie that it's a serial. Hey, to be honest, I'm a child of the 80s. I didn't fucking watch serials. I'm not really interested in going back and watching serials. So when I think of serials, I have to think of Indiana Jones. And this movie, while it is about the lead character, it is Harrison Ford. It has that music. It just keeps on restraining itself and not willing to go where it needs to go.
And again, as you've mentioned earlier, who do we quote unquote blame for this? Obviously, films I feel the trend is coming back a little bit. I think they felt like the longer the better because people feel like they're getting value for money. In the past, they didn't really have a huge number of alternatives, but now they do. So we need to make it as big as we possibly can, which I'm sure we will talk about. Big, 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 which means long, which means more effects, which means, longer is better and more is better, regardless of whether it needs to be there. And that is something that, as you say, Lucas and Spielberg, it's an anathema to them. Yeah, there are lots of moments where, quite frankly, it's just hard to get through. And that should not be something you say about an action adventure film that's supposed to be kinetic. And we talked about French Connection. Where's the energy? There's just no energy. Even in action scenes, there's no energy. It's very strange.
The marketing kind of damned itself because the one quote they had from Spielberg is that the advice that he gave was that this movie is a trailer. It needs to launch out of the gate and keep going and keep going. And that's the way he looks at all of his Indy Jones movies. And this movie continuously defies that.
Ooh. Ow. Oh. Oh.
That is the sound of a paperback book hitting flesh. Isn't that satisfying? Isn't that something you could use in your daily life? With your spouse? With your friends? With your children? With your pets? Someone getting out of line? Husband Roger has been looking at sexy Instagram reels and disappearing to the bathroom. Wham! Little Timmy failed his math test because he's been sniffing methamphetamines for the 8th time this week. Blammo! Folks, put down that tired old used paperback you found in the trash because I'm here to tell you my latest book, Momo and Matsu, is available in paperback, or for added physical damage, it's available in hardcover. Imagine the destruction you could create with a hardcover. All would fear you, and while they cower at your feet, you'll be looking pretty stylish because that cover, oh man, that is sexy. Momo and Matsu has a cover that turns heads and demands respect. Boom, it's on Amazon. Right now. I'm not joking. I'm not yanking your chain. It's there, like magic. Click that purchase button, wait patiently at your window, searching for that UPS driver. Oh, look, there they are. Now open the package, smile like no one can tell how seriously unhinged you are, and head on out into the world, knowing that you have a hell of a book to read. Or if you like a little stealth action in this digital age, the ebook is available too. Would I lie to you? Seriously? Go on, get on Amazon, type in Bradley Freeman, and there it is. I'll wait. Yeah, I'll just wait right here. B-R-A-D. Oh, okay, you got it. Yeah, sorry. Ebook readers are pretty fragile compared to paperbacks, so just an FYI, you're gonna need to get creative on how to hobble and maim those you hold dear. Momo and Matsu, available on whichever Amazon portal you use, or on my website, bradleyfreeman.net. You can order a personalized paperback copy. If you like, I can write a powerful, affirming message inside telling you that all the wrong choices in your life have been right. Why, yes, I can give you all the false empowerment you could ever want. What are you waiting for? Huh? What are you waiting for? Oh, jeez. Oh, speaking of winners, let's get back to the show, shall we? Moving to the next question. Why do you think they made the story choices they did? Why did they make, as you said, Indy crotchety? Why did they set it during the moon landing? Why did they add this vague, ultimately useless CIA thing? Why did they make Indy on the run from the law and then have it just forget about it? Why the fuck did they not simplify this movie at every stage? Why is Helena, random Indy sidekick we've never seen before, his daughter? Why not make Helena Sala's daughter?
Yeah, I don't know.
boom, there's an instant connection with the audience. And then you get to have Sala come along for the adventure for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question that I struggle to answer. And, I think it's trying to have its cake and eat it. It's trying to call back to previous things, but it's also trying to sort of push forward. And it's reflective of the older films in some elements, but has thrown away parts of it for others. It's obviously, whatever Disney are doing, I think most people would agree it's not working. They seem to they want to make it epic, and they think epic means throwing a lot at it. It feels like a film that's had a lot of rewrites, but not much editing, if you know what I mean. It feels like a film, like, let's say Antonio Banderas. I think a lot of people really enjoy in the film. He is in it for an incredibly short period of time, but when he is in it, brings a lot of life and energy. He should be I can't think of his name, the Denholm Elliott, or he should be much more present in the film. The decisions that were made are baffling because there are things in it that you think, yeah, go that way. Got it now, go that. Oh, no, you're not going that way. You've got that big book of analyzing how, and I used to love all those kinds of books when I was studying at uni. I used to love those books, like how do these things get made? And generally speaking, quite a small group of people making decisions. Now, who on earth knows how many people took a pass at this, had a look at this, chipped in with their opinion? So many spices are being added to this massive pot. We want to make it nostalgic. We want to make it new. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is hot. We want to make it funny. We want to make it zippy. We want to make it spy-y. It feels like just far, far too many people were throwing tidbits into the pot without any knowledge that that's kind of what's happened.
I don't know the stressful choices that Kathleen Kennedy and James Mangold were forced to make every single day to get this made. But have Indy want the MacGuffin from the very, very, very opening. Harrison Ford has gone on record saying, once I'm gone, Indy's gone too.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
He's like, I don't believe this character will feature in another movie again. Okay, last stories typically have a bit of navel gazing, but they're also typically about regret. It's about the character looking back at their life and seeing the paths not taken or the mistakes they've made. So you can have a quote unquote sad Indy, but tie that to the MacGuffin. Have him lose the MacGuffin right at the beginning, fills him with regret throughout the picture, and he has to kind of build himself back up. But this MacGuffin, he's on the train. He's not even fucking aware it's there. Then his sidekick, Toby Jones, tells him it's there. And he's like, what? That doesn't exist. And he fucking throws it in a lockbox. And then when Helena comes along, he's like, just a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Indy's face when him and Marcus Brody in the first movie talk about the Ark of the Covenant, they're beaming like schoolboys. And he says like, Marcus, it's the Ark of the Covenant. But this, he's just like, the best James Bond movies tie the threat or the MacGuffin into whatever issue he's dealing with in his life. Hell, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is all about aging.
Yeah.
It's where Kirk puts on fucking glasses. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? I feel old. Indy point blank stares at the camera almost and says to the audience, if I had a time travel machine, I'd go back and save my kid from Vietnam. And he doesn't do that. He never ever talks about it again.
The way that Shia LaBeouf is thrown away, literally thrown away off screen in this, he really isn't that bad. It's not his fault. Any of the issues people may have with Crystal Skull, it's not his fault. And I know he's a controversial character. I think it's a little bit of people's maybe dislike of him as a person filtering into their assessment of that film, which happens all the time. I mean, I do it all the time. I've already done it in this discussion. It does happen, but it's so weird and random. It doesn't feel earned at all. The way he just drops that in middle towards the end of the second third maybe of this film. It feels insulting to the people watching it because everyone knows that they tried to get Shia to be the next Indy or Indy Jr. or whatever. They tried so desperately in the previous film, and you understand why. And in this, it's thrown away. And as you say, there could be guilt eating him away, perhaps Logan-esque. And that's probably an answer, is that Mangold likes those kinds of narratives. And those kinds of narratives do kind of work. But do they work with an action adventure? Yeehaw, let's go and find a MacGuffin against all the odds? No, it's such a clash, a weird clash. And as I said, keep thinking of Last Crusade and how Connery is in that. He's older, yes, but he's still getting the girls and running around. And there are limitations to what he does. He ends up being a problem, but there's the vitality there that they've just decided. And sporadically, Indy does have it in this. Like the tuk-tuk scene, he does remarkable things. Sporadically, he does have energy. Sporadically, he has childish interest. But then in the very next scene, it's a bunch of gears. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Kind of thing. It's very odd, yeah.
The next question is, this is a franchise movie. This is a template movie. This is, as you said, action adventure. What does this movie try to add to it? What does it try to do differently? You just said it before. It's the hard choice with any sequel. The audience wants the same, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
And how much is that perfect ratio? It depends entirely on the movie, and it depends entirely on the individual viewer.
So okay, I'll ask you, of these kinds of films, these films that come much later, the sequels that are coming much later, which of those films do you think has found the right balance? You quite like Afterlife, don't you?
Apologies for anyone who doesn't agree. It's perfectly fine to agree or disagree, but I think that Ghostbusters Afterlife is the exact way of doing one of these later movies. You have the OG Busters come back. They're older, they're slower, whatever. And they do have regrets. That scene where Dan Aykroyd is talking on the phone to McKenna Grace, it's a two-person scene. She's asking questions. He's filling in her and the audience on the information about the Ghostbusters. He's sad. He's full of regret. He's bitter. It's all the stuff I think that they want for Indy in this movie. But it's Ray Stantz, a very chipper character. And then by the end, when they all come back, it's just, there they are, the old guys having a good time. And then, yeah, in Frozen Empire, they're still having a good time. I don't think anyone, be it a novel, a comic, a movie, a video game, I don't think anyone would want to enter into a franchise, enter into a final chapter and have it be so fucking morose, or have the character be so morose, especially if it's an action adventure.
Yeah. I'll say it's not perfect, but I think in terms of energy and balance, I think Force Awakens does a good job. I'm going to say it. Han Solo, yeah, all right. Why is he doing the same things? But he has the crotchety, but he still has the energy.
Oh, yeah. Some of the jokes, and he's got this fire, and like, that's not how the Force works. Like, it's...
Overall, it really felt propulsive and energetic. And the acting, again, those young actors who have got so much shit, obviously, especially Daisy Ridley. But I think in that first film, I think the tone and the balance is really good. I really enjoyed that as a cinema experience. And obviously, everyone was very, very hyped for it. For me personally, it does a lot more right than it does wrong. But I think Dial of Destiny, as you say, the scene after the prologue, it sets completely the wrong tone. And I know it's the Logan tone, but Logan is not this. It's a completely different kind of film. And they're trying to do 3 or 4 things at the same time, which tonally are all over the place. And also the humor. Where's the humor? Where is the, you know what I mean? It's not there. And we know Harrison Ford injured himself in the making of this. And I do wonder how much that's factored into it. I really do.
But hey, he also fucking got crushed in the Millennium Falcon's doors on The Force Awakens. So,
someone's trying to tell him something. Yeah. But
I think this does come down to Mangold, because if you watch all of Spielberg's earlier, let's say fucking Jaws, right through till Jurassic Park, that period of filmmaking, there's a lot of, and I love it. I love it so much. It's what I call cheesy Spielberg humor.
Yeah.
The Indy Jones has a ton of cheesy humor, right up until Crystal Skull, where Shia LaBeouf he's kind of dueling with swords with Cate Blanchett. He's getting smacked in the nuts by trees while his legs are doing the splits. That's a joke for the kids, but yeah, why not? But this movie, it's actually my very, very first comment in my notes. Where is the cheesy humor?
Yeah.
So you can have him waking up and yelling at neighbors and riding the train and feeling isolated and teaching a class full of kids that don't care. You could also put a bit of pep and humor into it, as opposed to him getting a fucking clock and then just being like, oh, I'm gonna go have a drink. And he gives the clock to some random schmo. But again, it's not funny. It's just like, yeah, you have it. It's sad. It's pathetic is what it is. It's not.
You should definitely clip that sound of you going, because that is the kind of what we're trying to achieve in this podcast. Again, if I didn't see it in the cinema, I kind of wish I had now. I wonder what reactions would have been. And I think it would have been he's gonna be like that in this, is he? Oh, okay. The banter, the repartee between him and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Somebody pointed out, like, I don't know how they do all that banter while they're in the middle of Incredibly Dangerous. I know that Crystal Skull does it, him and Winstone, right? Josie, where do you remember we did this back in the room, Josie?
Accurate Ray Winstone impression. Very well done. Well done. Josie!
Obviously, Mangold threw him away as well, but...
Well, no, he fucking dies in that last one, so he can't come back. Yeah.
Obviously, I think we should talk about Waller-Bridge's character arc. A lot of people have said, she double crosses. Now, double crossing is something that will always happen in an Indy Jones film. And obviously, Ray Winston comically quadruple crosses. I still don't know whose side he was on.
What are you, a triple agent?
Yeah. I don't think he knows. There was no need for her to flip-flop. And also, her kind of backstory, she's married to that guy, but then she dumps him and sells the ring.
Yep.
I don't think there was a good enough job making her somebody we can root for. Can we please talk about the sidekick a little bit? But what are your thoughts on I don't know what his name is, sidekick?
The kid flying the plane is way fucking worse than any monkey swinging that happened in Crystal Skull. It's just...
Yeah.
That would have worked in a Spielberg indie movie because the layup, the setup, and the pluckiness of the kid would have buoyed that. Like, if that was Short Round pulling off that shit, that works fine. And while we're talking about Short Round, hey, you got Salah back for like 1.5 scenes. All around this time, Ke-Huy Quan was riding on that big success. Everyone wanted him back. And your film that's overstuffed and doesn't know what it wants to do, I don't know why the fuck they just didn't put him in there.
Yeah.
Number one, the whole plane flying thing, no, fuck off. That doesn't work. But also, two, this precocious and plucky Spielberg kid without Spielberg is not precocious and is not plucky. Is he meant to be cute or cheeky or something? Because he comes across as belonging in a different film. And I feel that kid, that actor, the way he plays it should be in an R-rated movie. I got the feeling that this kid has lived a really rough life and makes a lot of bad choices and is heading down a really nasty path.
Yeah, I know.
There's none of that. No time for love, Dr. Jones. There's none of that. It's just like I thought we're doing this for the money. And then he fucking drowns the big guy. The way the camera stays on the bad guy's face is pretty horrifying. The bad guy's like, I'm gonna fucking drown.
Yeah.
It's not like ha, buddy, you deserved it. It's like, that kid fucking ganked your fucking ass. This kid makes me really uncomfortable.
That's the second coldest moment. The coldest is definitely when Banderas gets killed. And then Bridge is like, actually, because I went to private school, I can speak that language. And then in the next scene, she's just like fucking pissing herself. And there's that line where Harrison Ford's like, my friends just died.
But also, that's out of place because in other indie films, his friends fucking cark it in Temple of Doom, like, now I go first before you, Indy. Everyone fucking dies. So I was like, yo, old man, you can't be starting that shit now because there's a whole fucking graveyard behind you, dude. Yeah, the kid makes me really uncomfortable.
The kid, yeah. Again, why is he there? I wonder what they were trying to do. Again, going back to Waller-Bridge, casting someone, she is a smart person. Like, nobody denies it. I know she was somehow involved in the writing of this, wasn't she? She's a smart person. She has a style. It's kind of what you've just said. Does that style of personality work in a film like this? Because, and I have to also ask what you felt about the have you ever seen North by Northwest?
Yes.
Famously, it has that bit where she's hanging off the cliff,
pulls
her up, and it cuts to pulling her up into bed, which is one of my favorite, most audacious love-hate cuts in the history of filmmaking. The audacity of like, right, we've got this character in horrendous danger here, and we won't really explain, and he'll just be out of it. And obviously this film does the same thing. So he's back in ancient times, and he's like, this is where I belong. And I couldn't quite understand that either. But anyway, he's decided that, even though he seemingly had no interest, didn't know he was going to go there, and yet now he's decided this is where he needs to be. And then it cuts, and he wakes up on the couch. Is that just lazy screenwriting? What do you think about that? I really don't like it, but I wonder what you thought.
The whole Syracuse time travel thing, we're going to have to get into. But That one cut, that one sequence, I like the idea of him dying in history, actually.
Yeah, dying.
I don't like the location. I don't like the event, but I like the idea of Indy being somewhere in history, looking around, tired, taking stock, breathing in the air and telling her, I want this.
Yeah.
This is what I've always wanted, and I need it, Helena.
They film it exactly.
Yes.
Like somebody in the writing group had the same opinion as you.
Yeah.
Why the hell not? He's got nothing, we've decided he's got nothing to live for now, right?
Yep. I think a scene like that would be wonderful. And this movie starts to do it, but just as our heart starts to ache because we can feel, oh shit, this is going to be us saying goodbye to Indy.
Yeah.
Just as I started to get overwhelmed or verklempt, he's ready to say goodbye and she fucking punches him. And then the scene ends and Indy doesn't get to say goodbye to his find and he doesn't get to say goodbye to us.
Yeah.
That cut, her action, no fault of her own, I realize that. But Harrison Ford said that Crystal Skull was not a fitting end to his character. I think arguably the final scene in this movie is even worse. The final shot of this movie is a pan up to the hat. It's without any pomp or charm, and it's got this really quirky Williams riff.
Yeah, it does.
And again, this is not a screenwriting thing. I would have liked a really somber, aching melody from John Williams, a 3-minute piece from him that was played throughout the movie in key scenes that would tell you, here's how Indy's feeling. Here is his emotional state. And then that somber riff, the last shot of the picture, would turn into the Indy theme that we know and love. Melodically, you would feel the resolution and you'd feel, here is this character giving you a kiss goodnight.
Yeah.
And the character doesn't get that kiss, and neither do we.
No, instead he's virtually packed off to the old people's home. Virtually. He's lying on his couch. He's finished. And Marion comes. Weirdest cameo I've ever seen in a film.
I was always happy they brought Marion back for Crystal Skull, but she doesn't need to be in this because Indy, he says with Salah, like, oh, she doesn't want to hear from me. But is that the plot of the movie? Indy just wants to get back with his wife?
And he's not anyway. It's an embarrassing moment. And I just thought, so why is that now then? Because nothing about the motivation of her coming back makes sense. Because why? And again, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's arc with Indy is so weird. Like, I don't believe
her end scene where she's required to be like, no, I need you. Sorry, I didn't get that build up.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's always going to be a question whenever we have these discussions. When were decisions made and why were they made to go in the direction that they've gone? And I think we're being relatively fair. There are things here that could have been picked up and run with, and a lot of things that could have been dropped or there are things here, and I don't have a problem with the idea of that relationship, but it's just done in a very indecisive way. It leads to a real, that whatever noise you made earlier, feeling, which is very frustrating for a character that, whether you're really attached to him or not, it's a character that has a huge, huge influence on people's imagination and on people's lives. And to end it like that, you've given him the scene where he dies in the past. It's maybe a bit odd, but as you say, I don't know why it's that particular place, but the concept is fine.
When you've got a final chapter, then your characters and your audience need to reckon with this. They need to think about their mortality or the end of things, or et cetera, et cetera. It's unfair of the audience to expect this because unless the character knows it's the end, then we're expecting things that the character can't provide, right? But it is what it is. This movie, from the moment they announced it to the moment they released it, they knew it was going to be the end. And that certainly for Harrison, certainly for a couple of generations of audience, this was going to be it. Look, I've written, Mark is very thankfully, very kindly, I read the first of 3 novels that I've written about these characters. And I've already plotted out the second book and third book. The book is called Punchline.
Yeah.
I already know where those characters are going to end up. I haven't written it, of course, but in my mind, I have that final scene already in my head. Once that scene is done, once that book is done, that's it for those characters. It is the final book. And those characters are very much aware in that moment, this is the end for them. They have a moment where they get to say goodbye to each other. They get to have that emotional end. And I just wish, like, I love the Final Fantasy games, but I often wonder, do I love them because it's 80 plus hours of playing one game? And I'm pretty sure the same with the TV shows of old, where it was 7 seasons and 25 episodes a season. If you spend that much time with anything, good or bad, you're going to feel an emotional connection.
Yeah.
So Indy, we've had fucking 4 movies. We've had a goddamn TV show with Sean Patrick Flannery playing young Indy. Had a couple of video games, theme park rides, which I fucking love. I was just on that Crystal Skull ride 2 weeks ago. God, it is good. Oh, it's such a good theme park ride. That talk about efficiency of storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that is weaponized efficiency to make you feel you are in Indy Jones. This movie just, God, it just doesn't. Where is that cutthroat, I'm going to make you cry? It would have been so easy. And we'll be talking about this with Dominion. Jurassic Park Dominion fucking drops the ball as well. You've got these characters coming back. You have an emotional connection. It's really easy. Like, hey, spoilers, if you haven't seen Force Awakens, sorry. When Han Solo fucking bites it, that's pretty impactful.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
My wife, bless her soul, she hadn't seen a Star Wars movie before I showed them to her, which was an amazing experience. I loved it so much. When we got around to Force Awakens, that scene.
Yeah, I think you told me this.
She looked at me and she's like, he's not going to do it. This is a Hollywood movie. And then, she reacted like she'd been punched in the face because that's Han fucking Solo gone. You had that chance with Indy and you didn't go for it. It is an hour 42 into this fucking movie before Indy does to
this conversation. Yeah.
It's an hour 42 until Indy does tomb shit, as I've written in my notes. It's an hour 42. I'm going to be that guy. I'm just saying. The Mummy 2 opens with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz doing tomb shit.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember these characters? It's only been a couple of years. Remember what they do? They're doing it again.
One thing I do quite like, I quite enjoy the moment where they're on the plane and they're about to go through the time tunnel, whatever. Indy realizes Mickelson's calculation is wrong. I think that is a really cool little moment where, and you don't often see that actually. You don't, and he's like, oh no, I think I have got it wrong. And then he panics. And then when they go through and he's like, I am, oh no, I'm not. That little exchange is really interesting and well written. And I don't think I've seen, I mean, you often get in an indie film like the bad guy, like, oh, I was wrong all along. But usually it's immediately followed by graphic death.
Yes.
You know, in this case, we get to see him, and I like Mads Mikkelsen anyway, get to see him reckoning with his miscalculation. And I like that. And I like the fact that Indy, and that works quite well, I think. He's like, no, but hang on a minute. And that's correct. Like, I think that's a really smart piece of writing that works really well and informs character and it's what would happen, I think. And it's how people would react, I think. I mean, the Boyd Holbrook, again, doesn't need to be there. I thought that, I just want to give that little writing compliment. I think that's quite a nice way of showing that moment.
You know what? Yeah, I agree. Yes, because he's like, you're wrong. I just wish Mads as a character was much more meatier. So you're wrong would have been like, yeah, gotcha, you fuck. Because 5 minutes later, after seemingly flying around the beach a couple of times, they crash. He's killed off screen. And what's his name? Nostradamus, the fuck. What's his name? The guy who makes the dial.
Aristotle
comes across his dead body. There's your bad guy, folks. He's now just a dead body with a watch.
Yeah, I know.
Let's talk about Mads. He's a handsome guy. He's so handsome that apparently they de-aged him as well for the opening. I couldn't fucking tell.
Oh, I couldn't tell, no.
He looked the same age to me. He gets hit in the face with a giant fucking pipe.
You reckon that was in the script?
I do not know, but it doesn't matter because it's like you got hit in the face with a fucking pipe. Shouldn't you have like a giant pipe mark on your face? Like half your face is like dented or some shit like that. It would have gone a long way to making his character more threatening.
It would have done a bit of James Bondy, wouldn't it? It would have done
a little bit of James Bondy.
If you get rid of Boyd Holbrook, for example, then you can add more meat to Mickelson's bones. I cannot understand any of those. I mean, yeah, the big guy, as you say, it's a bit of a trope. I do not know who they are. And I guess Boyd Holbrook is a Nazi sympathizer. I mean, he puts on the uniform. Is that... We have no idea. So if we don't have any idea, why is he there? He adds literally nothing.
Nothing.
Take him away. Mikkelsen, a bit like, I can never pronounce his name, but Baylock, but whatever his name is in Raiders. That's an interesting bad guy, actually. And I was watching that yesterday. Something like that, riffing off someone, but that's someone being very much a minor part of the conversation. And then you get to know Mads, and the idea is not bad. The de-aging / lack of aging / lack of scarring is a big mistake. Have him disappear. Have him, Indy looks away and he's not there anymore. But that's fine. And then there's a mystery to it. And he's like, hang on a minute. I know you. You know, then that would work. Again, it's a strange decision. And why? You've asked this question probably an hour ago. Just why?
I would like to have had an Indy bad guy where it's just him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's someone really cunning and smart. So they are continually stealing the MacGuffin from Indy, or they're continually one step ahead. Then you could have a lot of that mental kind of like back. You have your Holmes and Moriarty going on. Fuck that. Maybe it's a bit manipulative. I would even go so far as the Shia LaBeouf character, Mutt. Make him the bad guy. Something happens at the beginning of the movie. Indy thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
He's not. Then you get to have that story of fathers and sons and time and regret. You haven't really had an Indy bad guy that is personal. There hasn't been a really deeply personal Indy bad guy.
Yeah.
That would have been nice to see as a nice way to wrap things up, maybe. Simplicity and efficiency.
Which is what this podcast is all about as well.
The final section of this podcast is always what scenes, changes, additions, or subtractions would have made this movie a little bit better. Obviously, you've been listening this far, you know what our suggestions and opinions are. But here, I would like to add one thing that I can't take credit for. I found it on Reddit, in the Indiana Jones subreddit. Somebody asked the group what changes would have made Dial of Destiny better. And yeah, there were the usual misogynistic, Helena is this, she sucks, she takes away Indy's agency, all of that stuff. But the one opinion that really caught my eye was, how about you take that 25-minute opener on the train and you make that your finale? And what a lightning rod of an idea. Look, Mark and I believe there's absolutely no problem in showing a movie in which your heroes grow old. Your heroes have regrets. Your heroes wind up at the twilight of their life, not where they, and we, the audience, quite expected them to be. There's drama in that. There's emotion in that. There's a lot of good to be mined from that. But this Reddit idea, I really would have liked to have seen. You can have a really good Indiana Jones film all about regret, all about looking back, not forward, by having the opening of the movie be that train sequence event, and something goes horribly wrong, and it's Indy's fault. Somebody dies, the object is broken, something. Because typically in an Indiana Jones movie, or really any action-adventure movie, the hero successfully saves the girl, saves the children, saves the village, whatever, right? It would be quite a punch to the face, hopefully in a good way, by having the beginning of the movie be failure. You could start your movie with young Indy, all that kind of stuff, but have him fail, and that failure costs him dearly. Then you could still have Helena come into his life. You could still have the majority of that movie in there. But then the time travel sequence at the end isn't Syracuse. It takes them back to that train. And Indy is in his younger body for, time travel reasons. And now he gets to make good. And now we as the audience, we've seen him at a certain age doing certain things. We get to spend our last moments with him back in his, air quotes, prime of his life. We get to have kind of the greatest hits all in one big finale sequence. Have him right the wrong, and yeah, honestly, have him sacrifice his life for others. Maybe, for some reason, Helena's mother is on the train or something, and he sacrifices his life to save her. So in the movie, he's kind of her godfather, right? He gets to really fulfill that task by making sure she has a good life that she's always deserved or something. I don't know. But you get my point. Start the film and end the film in the same place, but have it be a story about second chances, about regret, about making good on the mistakes of the past, and ending things on a hopeful, positive, rousing note. Something where the audience leaves feeling like they witnessed something special. And I know it's easier said than done. If that was the case, every movie would have a rousing, emotional ending that made the audience just want to get right back in line. Of course, but you've had 4 of these movies before. And I know there are fans of each of them, and I know that there are rankings about what's the best. But this franchise has been successful. This character has endured. It's not like it's a shot in the dark. End this film with a handshake between that character saying goodbye and the audience giving their farewell. What are your thoughts?
Oh, mine. Oh, God. I don't want to quite go as far as saying it shouldn't have been made. I'm on the fence about that. I don't mind its existence.
Put that on the poster. I don't mind its existence, Mark.
It doesn't make me angry like Dominion does, for sure.
Fair. Yeah, I agree. Yes.
If you're going to do it and if you're going to commit, how much money did they commit to this?
For the longest time, this was the thing that pissed me off the most about
Exactly. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned it, yeah.
$387.2 million, not including marketing. Let's say $450 million. Minimum. Look, I guarantee you, I will never, ever, ever produce a movie with that kind of budget. That is irresponsible to the extreme. I get that the next fucking Avengers Secret Wars with Downey coming back, I could see them spending $450 million because you know what? They've got a track record of the last couple of Avengers movies making over $1 billion, $2 billion fucking dollars. That I see.
Irresponsible is the word, I think. Yeah.
Irresponsible. I have a lot of sadness and contempt for people who release a movie with that much fat on the bones and that much money wasted, because I sure as fuck cannot see 380 million plus on the screen. Oh, yes, I realize that de-aging him so effectively cost a lot of money. But hey, you know what? Cut that scene down to 5 minutes. You save a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Star Wars has backed itself into a tight fucking spot. They have to de-age everyone, or they have to get fucking lookalikes and AI voices because apparently the audience just can't fucking handle a younger actor playing Luke Skywalker. They've been doing it for years. It doesn't fucking matter. I know you can get a pretty good Harrison lookalike person and then just do what fucking Eastwood did in goddamn, can't believe I'm referencing this, Space Cowboys, dub over the kid's voice. Who gives a fuck? There's Indy. That's fine. Save a lot of money.
Yeah, they could have set it a bit further in the past. So you could do the River Phoenix thing, just cast someone else. You wouldn't have even had to make it a true lookalike if you did something like that. It's not a big, well, we talked about it with Romulus, didn't we? I wonder if we're going to just see more and more and more of this as AI and those kinds of effects get better. I worry we are, but the fact that this film, well, it flopped, let's not beat around the bush, makes me think that perhaps people are like, okay, let's row back a little bit from this. I don't know. I know Star Wars is, those TV shows are trying to go off in different directions. I don't know what they can do at this point because the knives are so far out for them. I don't know what they can do.
Star Trek has been pretty successful. I mean, I'm almost finished Strange New Worlds season 2. What a delight that fucking show is. They've recast. Here comes fucking Kirk. Here's Spock. Here's Uhura. Different actors. Yeah, that's fucking Spock.
Right, and you have to say as well, finally, your final conclusion.
I don't know if you're much of a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 gamer, but are you aware of the Uncharted games?
Yep, I am. And the film, of course.
Yeah, I've never seen that film and I never will. The Uncharted games they're stolen right from Indy. Nathan Drake going around looting tombs. Now, in Uncharted 3, there's a sequence where Nathan Drake is taken to an old cruise liner out in the ocean. Through one reason or another, the ocean liner starts to sink and then overturn. And while you're playing the game, all the fucking seawater is rushing in. The level you're playing on turns upside down.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Playing that sequence, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. But as a storytelling point, I was like, wait a minute, because then he gets off the ship and he comes back to shore and there's his buddy Sully. Nate, what are you doing? That scene had no fucking purpose. And sure enough, I watched the behind the scenes later. The dev team, that scene was in there from the very, very nascent beginnings. Oh, we can rotate the set for the character. So they built that scene around wanting to try game mechanics. But in terms of story, other than being a thrilling sequence, it doesn't do anything for the character. It has no benefit. There is no change to the character from the scene before or after. And that is what I use to summarize Dial of Destiny. The underwater fucking sequence with the eels, it's a whole bunch of scenes that were added or planned or put in there that don't benefit the character and don't benefit the audience. Just cut this fucking movie down. The Phoebe Waller-Bridge character, she's got these rapid fire, kind of Harrison should be zinging back.
Yeah.
But she's like, his response is typically, so all of her barbs, which are pretty fucking good because she knows what to do, they drop dead on the floor, presumably like fucking Indy Shoop, and he gets shot in the fucking chest. But look, if you've got an 80-year-old plus character who gets shot in the chest,
he recovers from that incredibly well. I mean,
he does. He's having a great time.
Yeah.
Jumps off a plane.
But it's funny because that does echo a little bit Connery, what happens to Connery in Last Crusade. But contrast the way they're dealt with. Connery is stricken and needs to be saved. I still love that. I think that last third of that film, I love.
The Penitent Man.
It's brilliant. Instead, as you say, we've got grunting. Now, we don't know Harrison, seemingly he is just that kind of person now as he gets older, which is fair. We all change. And it makes her look like, for want of a better word, a twat. Makes her like she's beating up an old man. I don't enjoy it. Who's enjoying it? So I have no issue if a scene is imbuing character or atmosphere, but that's not happening here at all. The eel scene, oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah. Quite a long episode for us. Hopefully we talked somewhat measuredly, if that's a word, somewhat effectively about this film. The best thing about this podcast is I love talking to Mark about movies, and whether it be meeting for a beer or having lunch or dinner, this is the kind of stuff that Mark and I would talk about ad nauseum. So it's great we get to keep doing this. And now you guys get to listen in too. So hopefully it's been a good time for the audience.
Yeah. And, unlike in real life, it's a lot easier to walk away if you're not enjoying it. So you don't have to make any awkward excuses. You can just turn it off and we won't even know.
Want to suggest a movie we should check out? Want to call us a bunch of idiots? Want to just come say hi? You can do all of those things on our Instagram page, Written Off Pod. Come along, say hi. We are desperate for attention. Speaking of desperation, you can find me on Instagram or Threads at Brad Is Writing, and you can't find Mark on social media because he fucking hates it. Not you. He likes you. Honestly, he just doesn't like social media. On behalf of him and myself, thank you very much for joining us. As always, stay safe, go grab a slice of pizza, and we'll catch you for our next episode. What's it gonna be? Ooh, just you wait and see. Don't know why I'm ending things on this creepy tone. The next episode is Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. Son of a bitch! Execute Order 66. Written Off Stuff is hosted by me, Bradley Freeman, and Mark Tasker. It's produced by the both of us, and it's edited by me. Our theme music is by Skane, and our artwork is by Sketchfro. This has been a Pugnacious Podcast production.